Shakti ji, Chitra ji, Johi ji, Hari Om. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारंभं करिष्यामि सिद्धे भवतु मे सदा वसुदेवं सुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं हरि ओम कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. As Aditi ji informed in the group, today is Dr. Nirodabaran's birthday. So it is a wonderful occasion to be studying his correspondence. Yes, can someone recollect what is it that we saw last? Yes, anybody? Okay, Chitraji, if
Yeah.
you can. Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah. So same kind of questions come to the sadhaks as they progress on sadhana. Though they wouldn't have discussed or something, it's because of the experiences that they get as they progress. So that was one point that we saw as to why similar questions arise, and the same kind of responses were given. And about the meditation, where the forced descent happens, how it passes through the centers and through the crown of the head. So that was that entire process we saw. And then Sri Aurobindo and the mother, they gave the free will for Dr. Nirodabaran to choose medicine if he wishes to. That was one thing we saw. And then we saw about the exchange of conversations around um, about the capabilities of men versus women. But Sri Aurobindo says that despite of various circumstances and
Sadhana
situations,
equally predisposed.
it's
Everybody is.
possible.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then Dr. Nirodbaran takes charge of the dispensary. It is an opportunity to overcome those fears and weaknesses. And we also saw a point where yoga requires adequate amount of sleep and food consumption. That was also emphasized. And the occupation, which was contrary to what Dr. Nirodbaran
Hmm.
was doing, that was timber, allowed him to progress in sadhana as well as in that department too progressed greatly. So that was one thing we saw. And now he has taken charge and he is kind of sitting close to, I mean,
Close to.
sharing
Yeah.
the proximity of
Yes.
share a bit.
Sri Aurobindo's room, just underneath is where he's got his dispensary. Oh, yes, we'll continue. Before we continue, this one aspect. It was the wish of the mother and Sri Aurobindo that Dr. Nirodbaran runs the dispensary. But initially, he was not ready, isn't it? But Sri Aurobindo did not order him that you have to be in this dispensary. So, why didn't Sri Aurobindo do that? Anybody, if you would like to just think about it. Because there was a need. There was a need in the ashram for a doctor in the dispensary. And a doctor has come to serve Sri Aurobindo, isn't it? So logically, if he could have given the Adesh, no? But why that was not given? Anybody?
It is
Uh,
because
ac-
of, yeah.
Okay, Johi first, then Chitra ji, because I think Johi started. Yes, please. Johi.
Actually, I think Sri Aurobindo never gave any uh, adesh as such or order. It is more about what people are willing to follow and what they want to do. Because
Yes.
spirituality comes from within, it won't come from the order and stuff.
Okay. All right, that's interesting, isn't it? He's a guru sthana, and still he has not given the order. All right. Chitra ji, what were you saying?
About respecting the free will of
Free will
Dr.
means,
Nirodha.
yes.
And also we saw in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says the same to Arjuna in the end. I've given you everything, now it's up to you.
Yathechasi tatha kuru, isn't it? That is the freedom. That is the freedom where we work with our swabhava. So somewhere probably Dr. Nirodharan had to overcome his own inner barrier, isn't it? To go back because he had his past experience. He had decided, ki, chalo, enough, no more of this medicine. Now I'm entering into sadhana. I don't want to enter into my kshetra. But again, situation came forward, and it was not what we can say forced upon Dr. Nirodabaran. When Dr. Nirodabaran understood, yes, so he was, Acha, if you are interested, then go ahead. This is actually important why we looked at this because in our life also, we must understand that we have that free will, and we have to also understand that we should not have our own limitations which are preventing us from understanding. You see, the need was there, isn't it? What was he expecting? A red carpet? No. The need was there, he could have understood and immediately aligned with it. But there was a time. So sometimes we get that some realizations don't come to us directly. So we have to learn to be letting go of our own preconceived notions and look at it with what we can say, a kind of a detached clarity. So, but anyway, it is good that Dr. Nirodharan is back. He is now again doctor. Let us see. We'll continue. Nirodharan. Dr. Nirodharan writes, is it necessary to keep the dispensary open for longer hours than at present? Sri Aurobindo, he replies, there are two different things. One, sadhaks who can be confined to limited hours, and two, workmen and servants who cannot. For the workmen may have accidents, and that must be seen to immediately. So you must be available, especially at times when the work closes. Number two is the main thing, for it throws a considerable responsibility upon us. I think this is fair, easy to understand. Let's continue. Nirodharan, he again asks the next question. The dispensary table is covered with paper and looks rather untidy. An oilcloth would be better. Sri Aurobindo, mother had given a fine colored hospital cloth, very big, the size of the table, and much better than any oilcloth. Or ask what has become of it. So this is very interesting. They had difficult, like what we can say, meager resources also had to be used. The ashram was getting set up. And each and everything, this was perfection. It was looked at. The mother was, why many people say she is like Mother Saraswati's incarnate for so many. Because that is how Mother Saraswati is working on imperfections also, and every little details, minute details. One great, what we can say, Pravachanकार had said, God is in the details. So here, these small things, their clumsiness, carelessness, all of these have no role at all. There was a cloth, the cloth was given. Somebody would say, what does this have to do with great sadhana? This has everything to do with sadhana. Let's continue. Nirodhan, he says, there is no table for my personal use. And for your big photo, what would you suggest? A small cane table or nails on the wall? So he's asking about his own photo. Sherwin, what should I do with it? Sherwin, though, he replies, no nails on the wall, absolutely forbidden. Ask for a small table from Amrita. Nirodhan, by the way, I find that I am extremely hilarious and happy, though I am doing very little sadhana. One cause I find is the daily contact with you. But is hilarity permissible in the court of the divine? And can it go hand in hand with progress? So, very nice question. He's saying, I'm doing very little sadhana now, but I'm having more, what we can say, lighter moments, happier moments also. So, is it permissible? Sri Aurobindo replies, cheerfulness is the salt of sadhana. It is 1,000 times better than gloominess. Now, one question is, he is doing little lesser sadhana according to Dr. Nirodharan, isn't it? And yet he is getting happier. Earlier he was doing sadhana in the timber go down also, and that time he was concentrating and all of it. Now he's back to his clinic and dispensary and he's looking at everybody. Probably not getting enough time. But yet he's having this greater moments of joy. He's feeling light, cheerful. Anybody, what could be the reason? Normally, when you do sadhana, you are supposed to feel that. No? Yes. Namaste, Dr. Vaishali ji. You would like to share
Namaste,
something?
Namaste.
Ji.
Uh, he might be getting work satisfaction. So because he's
Yeah.
looking at patient now, so
Ah,
that
probably
might be the
yes. Ji,
underlying
ji.
reason behind that.
As a doctor, I think you can share that, isn't it, Dr. Vaishali ji?
Yeah, yeah. Because means you are doing your what you like the most.
Ha, ha, ha.
Passion, what you can say. If you are
Yes, yes.
able to pursue your passion, you are more, you are in a bliss. You are in ananda. And
And
same can get enhanced because of meditation.
ji, ji. And can this be used as a means for sadhana? Your
Other
works.
either way, both
The
ways,
works can also be used. The works can also be used as sadhana. And here he
vice
is doing a
versa.
different karma yoga only. What
Yeah,
Dr. Nirodabaran is doing. Another aspect is, of course, proximity. He has now moved very close to Sri Aurobindo's room. So I think when you become closer, you're always happier, isn't it? It's something
yeah.
like that. And if you see this entire correspondence, you'll see an element of humor in it. Damliji also says, be sincere, don't be serious. Because many times in little moments where you can experience the joy and ananda, little moments that allow us to take us ahead. As Sri Aurobindo said, no? Cheerfulness is the salt of sadhana. So it's in the good way, the salt of the food. It's the most important aspect. Without salt, how does the food taste? Bland. So our sadhana also, we should have cheerfulness. Nirodhan, he says, the cloth you sent is too good for the dispensing table and will be spoiled. So it is being used for the writing table. Will oilcloth be available? Sri Aurobindo, yes, you have to ask the BS, building service. There were departments, so building service department. You ask there. Nirodharan, the main room is now broomed twice and mopped once. Sri Aurobindo, that's all right. Nirodharan, how shall we clean the glazed tiles? They are now simply dusted. I am thinking of thoroughly watering the floor once a week. Sri Aurobindo replies, glazed tiles can be wiped with wet cloth, but watering can't be done because it spoils the walls. Again, you just see this is a correspondence between the great yogi, Sri Aurobindo, and a doctor. And what are they talking about? They're talking about tiles, cleaning up of it. Again, an indication that our sadhana is an integral sadhana. It is a three-dimensional sadhana. Little actions. As Adi Shankaracharya says, isn't it? Yad yad karma karomi tadakhilam shambho tavaradhanam. Or this is Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Smallest action in the Gita, it has to be told, can protect you from greatest danger. So this is a great lesson for us. Look at the sincerity of Dr. Nirodharan, and he is small things. This table, this cloth that you sent, he could have used it. He says, no, it's too good. So let it, it'll get spoiled. Let it be. Means so many times we get some sanctions. Say we are working from an organization, the organization gives us something. We have to utilize everything, each in its place and a proper use. That is something. Yoga karma su kaushalam. That is what Krishna has told in the Gita. That is perfection in works. That is spirituality all. And here we see it practically. Nirodhan, he says, shall we use flow polish if possible, if available? Sri Aurobindo, polish can be given, but then you can't use water anymore. Of course, polish is nice looking and hygienic, but it will be rather a labor to keep it up, passing a special cloth every day. If the servant has time, it can be done. Nirodhan, the walls can be rubbed with wet cloth once a week. Sri Aurobindo, that is good. The wall tiles can be rubbed with a wet cloth. Nirodhan, shall I put a notice? No shoes, please. Sri Aurobindo, yes, you can put a notice. Of course, if there is polish, shoes are possible. Nirodhan, another thing, but I feel hesitant to write about. I have a great fancy for a secretariat table, like the one being prepared under my supervision. For, what is this word? I don't know. Cocotia. Sri Aurobindo. It can be done. You can ask Chandulal for it. Nirodban. Your resident physician or surgeon is not satisfied with being that alone. He is anxious to serve another deity who is still behind. So he needs a bigger table, which will be convenient and necessary, apart from the prestige. Sri Aurobindo, he replies, the bigger table is necessary for the prestige of the deity and for the convenience and necessity of the physician priest. So this is just another desire of his. Nirotpan. N said that he took some methylated spirit, knowing it fully well and obeying a suggestion that if he took it, all his complaints would disappear. Is it really the hostile force that prompted him? Now, again, suddenly, this is the interesting aspect. Rajivji also had once pointed out. Suddenly, important aspects of sadhana come in. Here we are talked about hostile forces. What are these hostile forces? Anybody? Anyone? And where do we see them? Old dilapidated buildings where nobody comes, only there, hostile forces, both pishach or something like that. Or what are these hostile forces? Anyone? Can we guess? Can someone try? Yes, Dr. Vaishali. Yes, please.
Lower senses can be a hostile force for me.
Huh?
Lower
Lower
senses.
senses. Lower senses, isn't it? Yes, yes. And lower senses, we have the Indriyas, and suddenly the lower pull, no? We have said Atmaiva Bandhuratmana, Atmaiva Ripuratmana. Many times we see suddenly in a meeting somebody gets frustrated. Or you see outside also, you see a dog suddenly getting excited all of a sudden and suddenly getting calm also. What is happening? Something, some entry, some movement is there. And this is a moment of forces. We have seen in the Gita also that there are forces at play. In Prakriti, Prakriti works through the forces, and the forces are what we are calling gunas, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. So these three gunas and Prakriti works, and then attaches us into Maya. What does a yogi do? The yogi is conscious. The yogi is aware. Somebody tries to push you. What can you do? You can also avoid it if you're aware, isn't it? It is as simple as that. That is what the yogi does. He is not receptive to the hostile forces. That is an important aspect of rejecting hostile forces that the yogi is able to do. In our sadhana also, we must learn to reject hostile forces. How do we define hostile forces? Do we draw their faces or no? We don't have to look at it. We just see the consequence. Am I feeling gloomy? Yes, something unnecessary. I'm feeling that lower emotions. These are all aspects of hostile forces. So it's time. It's time to change. I think we hear about vibes and all. No, I'm feeling good vibes today. Or when you're talking to someone, you suddenly feel that no, I'm not. What do you do? Then you change the thing. You change the scenario. Do a little bit of sadhana, change, or sometimes just lighting an agarbatti and changing the atmosphere makes a big difference. So that is what. And so now here, somebody took methylated spirit, knowing fully well and obeying a suggestion that if he took it, all his complaints would disappear. Now, this is a kind of a superstition, isn't it? From somewhere, he just got a suggestion, some thought from somewhere. Just one moment. Yes. So these suggestions come to us from somewhere. Sometimes they are higher suggestions, sometimes they are lower suggestions. So this suggestion appears to be a lower one. Sure, Nirodhan, right? Is it really the hostile forces that prompted him? Sri Aurobindo replies, is he speaking the truth? B writes that he did it immediately after B left him and then bawled from the terrace to B to come and help. If he did it with such an idea, it is evidently a suggestion of the hostile force, or if you like to put it more psychologically, he was possessed by a mental formation of an irrational, undetermined character. It is of the same class as the ideas which get hold of people's minds and become fixed ideas. Only these are momentary. But even if he did it by mistake, it was a suggestion from a source that wanted to do him injury and took advantage of a momentary absence of mind. So that is why we should not have any moment where we are not aware or unconscious. That is why yogis say avoid aspects which will lower your consciousness. Why? When your consciousness is lowered, your guard is down. When your guard is down, what's going to happen? Suddenly, your own best friend will come and irritate you and tell you something which will again trigger a different type of reaction. But instead, if your guard is up, you're able to fend off these attacks. Because these are the attacks of the forces. Many times it's not the person also, it's just a force. Maybe that force may not work somewhere else, it will work on you because your guard is down. If your guard is up, it will come, knock on your door two, three times, and nobody is opening, and it will find another place to go. So this is something which we can understand. So Sri Aurobindo talked about it as it could be a psychological mental formation. That if I do this, this will change. Sometimes we get no feeling. If I do like this, then definitely, like when we were young, if one person's head hits the other person's head in school, we'd say, "Come, do it one more time." Why? Otherwise, the bull would come and hit you. That was the story that was told. What was that? That was just a fixed thought. But these are all permanently fixed thought. Like one person, his mother had told him that don't eat the first loaf of the bread. When he was a child, he asked why. Mother said it's poison. This man is now grown up and he still believes it's poison, so don't eat the first loaf of the bread. These are all fixed ideas, but the way of forces is not permanently fixed ideas, these are momentary. So suddenly, hey, what happened? I don't know what it came. That's why we have to learn to reject a lot of what we call the lower forces. We have to be receptive only to the divine. Let the divine grace flow through us. All other things are not required. Nirodbaran, he continues. Apropos to our discussion on women, let me put before you mother's opinion on the matter. He is now going to try to quote the mother or misquote the mother to justify his opinion. He's still not left it. Apropos our discussion on women, let me put before you mother's opinion on the matter. She says that women are not more bound to the vital and material consciousness than men. On the contrary, as they do not have the arrogant mental pretensions of men, it is easier for them to discover their psychic being and be guided by it. So finally, he has now got a reference to challenge Sri Aurobindo and re-establish his statement that women are more receptive to sadhana than men. Sri Aurobindo replies, no doubt, they can discover their psychic being more easily, but that is not enough. It is the first step. The next is to live in the psychic. The third is to make the psychic the ruler of the being. The fourth is to rise beyond the mind. The fifth is to bring what is beyond mind into the lower nature. I don't say it is always done in that order, but all that has to be done. We will look at this again. Sri Aurobindo's yoga or sadhana is considered to be, it's called integral yoga, it's called what we can say the sadhana of the supermind or the supramental. Nowadays, you will find apps which will allow you to make payments to reach supermind with specific mantras, but I don't know if that really works that well. But let us see what Sri Aurobindo is talking about. First step is to discover the psychic being, Chaitya Purush, the inner being inside all of us. First step is that. Next is, it's not just enough discovering, chalo, theek hai. Next is living in that. Living in that psychic being, becoming conscious of that and remaining in that consciousness. Any example of psychic being coming to the front or being in psychic being, any moment anybody can think of? Because it's a little abstract unless we get some kind of examples from our life. Previously, we have seen what is that psychic being and psychic being coming to the front or something like that, it is said. Anybody? Any example? Somebody goes to a Devale, there in quietude, not for what, like I think Chitraji had used a good term for it, temple of what I think it was something about everybody is going there for a business transaction when people are going to pray to the Deva. But it's unlike that, if you're quiet and peaceful on the inside at that time, then you get and connect with your inner psychic being. But what happens, it feels very nice, no? Meditating in the temple or meditating in your Devghar or your dhyana room, wherever. It feels very nice meditating there. Then what happens? You come out of that room, you see your father, you see your mother, you see your brother, you see your sister or somebody, and suddenly that is lost. That entire feeling of quietude and calm and peace is lost. So, what you cultivated, what you experienced, that has to be extended. That's what Sri Aurobindo is talking about. Living in that, that is the next step. The third is to make the psychic the ruler of the being. What does that mean? That means that psychic being has to now start predominating your life. That is your real Raja or Rani or however you want to identify the ruler. What does that mean? That does not mean you're going to leave your duties. Only all your duties are going to be directed from that inner clarity. Because many times what happens, like fixed notions, preconceived notions, no, no, I have to do this, I have to do that, this is like this is like that. No, 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 I cannot. One participant had shared her experience. She waited, I think, for 17 years to take a change in her profession. She wanted to enter into a particular sector. But all the time she had some fixed thoughts or her own resistance was blocking her from going there. She said 17 years she was not peaceful. Go to an astrologer, he'll say this Mahadasha was there, then this Antardasha came, then this happened, that happened. Whatever it is, it may be true, but ultimately, where is the resistance coming? It's in the individual, isn't it? That resistance suddenly lifted, and then she took that decision. Means that psychic being of hers dominated, and now her life is transformed actually. She actually got some brilliant spiritual experiences also afterwards. See, that aspect, that step has to be taken. So, for that, we have to understand many of us may be taking important steps in life. Important steps in the sense it could be an ordinary step also, which you're taking out of your home. Also, any moment can become an important moment when you are able to become conscious. Just now, very recently, now our Clean Earth initiative, we are talking about it, just started very randomly. But we would say the psychic being of people had come and suddenly now divine is guiding and we are experiencing the support that we are receiving. Means it's as if we are all planning and things are happening one by one, all are falling in place as if we have already planned, but we are not planning. Things are happening because that alignment has taken place. The elderly also, they are also sadhaks. They are also doing something, and then they are just imagine going on a walk and finding the manufacturer of some material which you are searching for on the walk. And then that person turns out to be the most ideal one, and the government is also interested in procuring from the same person. How does it all happen? Well, that is what happens in life when the psychic being becomes the ruler. So our job is first identify the psychic being, then start living in that psychic being. Many times people wonder, how will I live with psychic being? I have so many hurdles around me. I have hurdles, emotional hurdles, physical hurdles, mental hurdles, familial hurdles, societal hurdles, and n number of hurdles are there. What can we do? Can we say, अरे कलयुग है, कुछ नहीं कर सकते? These hurdles were there before also, isn't it? These hurdles were there 100 years before also, 1,000 years before also. And yet heroes were born, heroines were born, isn't it? Fighting all odds. So these hurdles will cease to remain hurdles when your psychic being is guiding you. Nothing to worry. Best example we have, what was Hiranyakashipu saying? No, you're not allowed to worship only, isn't it? That's what he said. But did his son bother? No. Why? Because his psychic being was guiding him. He was living in that consciousness. No. So, meaning outer aspects, somebody would say, "Arey, what a horrible childhood, what a difficult life, no freedom, all suffering only." But actually, it did not. He did not suffer at all. And inside, he did not have that emotional turmoil, no? Because he had risen beyond that. That is the next part. The fourth aspect is rising beyond the mind. This is also very important. We have seen in the Gita, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manah manasastu para buddhi yo buddhe paratastu saha. There are levels of consciousness. Lowermost level is the level of the senses or the indriyas. Higher than the indriyas is the mana, because mana is the raja of the indriyas. I feel like eating an ice cream. Mind will say, boss, your throat is bad. Not today. You'll not be able to take a class. So then I'll have to listen. Chalo, theek hai. I will not have the ice cream right now. So mind is there. But still, mind is again what? Limited. Because what I know, it is going to work on that only, isn't it? What experiences I have got, what logic I understand, I am going to work according to that, isn't it? Can I say I have got all the experiences of the world? No, I am limited. What life I have lived? 35 years before, I don't know what I was doing. I was not on this birth, in this birth only. So whatever I have experienced is finite. My mind is also finite that way because of its limitation of the indriyas only. So that is why since ancient times, all yogis talked about transcending the mind. You want to study the Upanishads? First token is you have to transcend the limitation of logic of the mind. तदेजति तन्नेजति तद्दूरे तद्वन्तिके तदन्तरस्य तद्बाह्यस्य. Not far, it is far, it is near also, inside also, outside also. Why all of these are told? Because the yogi is trying to do a kind of stretching. Okay, this is your limit. You understand what is inside, you understand what is outside. But this Brahman is both inside and outside. We know only what is inside cannot be outside, or what is outside cannot be inside. This is the logic of the mind. But now they're asking transcend that to experience. So this is the next part, rising beyond the mind. The fifth is to bring what is beyond the mind into the lower nature. Now, this is actually defining sadhana, no, in 5 steps. Sri Aurobindo is also saying these need not be the same order of 5 steps. It may be different for different people. Somebody may have a greater psychic opening afterwards. Sudden bursts of over mental intuition. Suddenly. Person who is not aware of psychic being only may get an intuition suddenly. But now this next step is after you go beyond the mind, your job or your task and sadhana is to to make it descend. Descend into what? Into the lower nature. What will happen when that higher consciousness enters into the lower nature? Lower nature gets transformed. It is for transformation. that we must bring about that descent. Transformation is required in the world? Yes or no? Yes. What about us? Transformation is required in us? Yes, that is equally more important. What is good in us must be cultivated, we must grow, but what is not good, that has to be transformed. We have to become conscious. That will happen when there is this grace. We have heard the shlokas, isn't it? Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langhayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Means when the kripa is there, kripa also is what? It is a grace, the descent of grace. And that descent is what must be done to become receptive, to experience that descent. We have to rise. We have to rise beyond the level of the mind. That is why if moments of inspiration and all come when you are very calm and receptive to some states, who knows, sometimes you go. Some poets are there, they are able to quickly go. They use the word Shigra Kavi. Immediately they're able to try, go, just and get the topic is there and this person starts running into that particular. How is it possible? Well, it is like that. Somehow some people get that capacity. Is it inborn? No, it's not inborn, it is cultivated. Cultivated through sadhana, through life experiences. Somebody may not be doing sadhana like exactly like typical sadhanas which people are doing, but still the Jivatman is there, no, doing sadhana. Slowly. And when you do it consciously, it's possible. So this is what Sri Aurobindo is telling. So these are the 5 steps. If the 5 steps are clear, can we go ahead? Yeah. All right then. Let's go on. Nirodan, then why do you say that these are my clear-cut mental assertions? He's referring to his statement on 19th January. If I can find it and see, or let us continue. If it's, we'll see when we look at the context. Sri Aurobindo replies, perhaps if you give full weight to my marginal answers, you will realize why. The truth is too complex for such assertions to be reliable. Truth is three-dimensional. You can't try to force truth into a logic. Logic is again limited by mind, isn't it? So, what is beyond the mind? What is supra-rational? Mind dismisses as irrational or non existent, or it is not there, such a thing cannot exist. Why? Because that is the logic I can understand. So this is something he says, don't. Truth is too complex to quickly make it into rigid assertions. Again, Nirodbaran says, Mother also says that women are conscious in their sentiments and that the best of them are conscious in their acts. If that is so, there is no more question about it, I think. Sri Aurobindo Sri Aurobindo underlined the word no more question. That is too much to say. He says. There may not be so much mental questioning, but there may be a lot of vital questioning and resistance. If you see, Sri Aurobindo is also using the words they may. He's not saying they, he's not rigidly declaring something because the truth is not something which can be rigid. Truth is something which is vast. The Rigveda, it is called what we can say Ritam. Ritam is vast like the sky. They call it Satyam, Ritam, Bruhat, the Trinity. Like Sat, Chid, Ananda, this is also there. So it's so vast, you cannot quickly declare everything. So indirectly, Sri Aurobindo is hinting at Dr. Nirodabaran only when he's saying this. Maybe they're not asking, they're not so much mental questioning. So what Dr. Nirodabaran is doing, is he trying to reach? Yes, Dr. Vaishnaji, you want to say something?
Just one in that Atharva Shisha, we say that Satyam Vachmi, Rutam Vachmi.
Ah, Satyam Vachami,
So that
Rutam Vachmi, Avatvam, Vaktaram, or Shrotaram. So that Vakta and
Dataram.
Shrota, yeah. So the Shruti should come, no? We should be able to hear from not just words or mantras of somebody else. Real mantras are heard in a quietude. Some people will they receive them, they experience it. So yes, Dr. Vaishalji has said, Rutam Vachami. Speaking the Rutam is what the Rishi says. Rutam of what? In the Atharva Shirsha, it's about Ganesha. This is the truth of Ganesha. There is also a very powerful mantra. It's got its own tantric significance as well. The entire Atharva Shirsha is for one small Bija mantra. The initial preparation is there, and then the Bija mantra is quickly uttered, and then again, like a Shanti Pat, something like that, a conclusion is there. So, yeah, let's continue. Nirodban, you will agree that the women are more intuitive than men. Sri Aurobindo, he says, yes, that of course, but it is a spontaneous intuition of the heart or of the vital mind, not the intuition with a capital I. So he says, again, yet the earth revolves around the sun, something like that. Nirodharan is trying to quickly generalize, but Sri Aurobindo says, no, some aspects. There's a difference, isn't it? We know morphologically there's a lot of difference. We know there's a psychosomatic link also. So morphological difference, experience. We also saw Sri Aurobindo talking about a cultural inheritance of so many years. That also has a bearing. So in certain aspects, yes, they might be more intuitive in certain aspects. That is true. My friends who are married, they say correctly their wife senses when they're up to something. They have told something and gone elsewhere. Correctly, they get a phone call. That is a very big, some kind of intuition. Whether it's true, not, whatever it is. But Shravan says a higher intuition, which is that something which he says capital I in a lighter note, meaning that is something which is beyond what we understand. The genders and all, they can have a small role to play when we look at the highest intuition. Again, Nirodban continues. As they live in the vital, their difficulties in sadhana will be less, I suppose. Sri Aurobindo replies, not at all. How can living in the vital make things easier? And again, you see, this is the time is 1935, okay? The age and era of that when this dialogue is taking place. That time there were so many restrictions also, so many which are not there now. There's a lot of more freedom as well. So these are all certain things. Not at all. Nirodharan says, Sri Aurobindo says, not at all. How can living in the vital make things easier? Anybody, what is this vital? Chitraji is writing in the floral meditations many times the term vital comes there. So I'll ask Chitraji last. Anybody else? This is something term which is quite unique to integral yoga. Sri Aurobindo's sadhana. They keep using this in different places because that is one description. Anybody? Yes, Dr. Vaishnavi.
Lower senses, emotions.
Ha, perfectly said. Yes, yes, it is the emotions. Chitraji, is that correct? If you would like to add something about it.
Yeah, there are three kinds of vital: higher vital, the
Okay.
proper vital, and the lower vital. The lower vital is the place where all these lower emotions, all those things come into picture, and the proper vital is for passion and all those things. And the higher vital is
Proper vital is for?
something that drives, something like passion, something that can execute the tasks, or some kind of
Okay.
energy is what something I think I
Okay, proper
remember.
vital is maybe more receptive to the divine will. Lower vital is only emotions. Hey भगवान मेरा कुछ सुनता नहीं है, कोई सुनता नहीं है, भगवान भी सुनता नहीं है. All these cryings happen, no, in tears. That is lower vital. So okay, then proper vital is what you are saying. It's
Center
not.
vital or something is there. Yeah,
Acha.
vital proper. Yeah, something of that kind. And then we
Yeah.
have the higher vital
So
where
it's
I
a
think
little
it's the
more
one.
refined. The proper vital is slightly more refined than the lower vital. Vital also is a requirement. You cannot crush just like emotions, no? Many times we say, oh, I'm now doing sadhana, I have no emotions, I have experienced vairagya. That is also an emotional reaction. No more emotions. I have become detached. This is a dialogue commonly people use. Most commonly, I have become detached. It's just a vital reaction. It's not real detachment. Who has got that vairagya? Somebody who has got vairagya will just look quietly and I see, but I don't agree with you. That calmness will remain, but not that way. So the proper vital is something little more refined, and then the higher vital. Higher vital is more open, receptive to the divine. The mother had talked about it like a horse, wild horse. So wild horse, you sit on a wild horse, you're likely to get injured, isn't it? But if you tame the wild horse, then you can go faster, you can go longer. I mean, longer distances can be covered, something like that. So here, let us continue. Not at all. How can living in the vital make things easier? The vital is the main source of difficulties in the yoga. The difficulty with men is not purely mental. There too it is vital. Only men call in their intellect to defend their vital against the coming, or the touch, or the pressure of the divine. Women call in their vital mind to do the same thing. So what happens here? The vital comes as an interference. Interference to what? To the touch or the presence of the divine. Our emotions sometimes come in the way of our experience also. So that is why our emotions we have to understand, we have to accept them, and then rise above them. If you remain in the emotion level, you will not experience truth. Truth in what? Truth in any dimension. Love also, is it emotional? Is love emotional on the level of emotions only? It is something bigger, isn't it? It is something beyond. No? Otherwise, it will only be what we can say emotional atyachar or blackmail going on, emotional everywhere. But that is not the case, no? In love. There is understanding, there is something which transcends. A person starts becoming better, evolving. I think the mother has talked about that as a singular emotion that is able to, push your evolution quickly. So that is there. Let's continue. So men and women both have the same thing as what Sri Aurobindo is saying. So he's not agreeing to what Nirodabaran says. Let's continue. Nolini writes in his book, woman's whole being is concentrated on the thing she clings to. But man's vision is not so exclusive. Nishtha is the very nature and ideal of woman. Nishtha is a Sanskrit word which means concentration of will in dedication, according to the footnote. Sri Aurobindo, he replies, it depends on the spirit with which she is concentrated. There is the psychicized spiritual, and there is the unregenerate vital. The unregenerate vital creates enormous difficulties, and its desire to possess means a vehement, vital egoism. How can a vehement egoism be helpful for the spiritual life? So, when there are extremes of emotions, there is also extreme of ahankar. And where ahankar is there, only the individual is there. Where will the divine come in? No room for divine, only individual. Ahankar is so again emotions and ahankar that come is a big connection. So again, there's not much of a help of this vital egoism. Nirodban, he writes, if this nishtha can be transformed into higher and diviner things, then her path becomes easier. I suppose he is not living that. Sri Aurobindo writes, what is this nishtha? If the woman recoils from the vital to the spiritual and psychic, the vital converting itself into an instrument of realization, then what you say may be true. But there lies the whole question. So if vital is, recoiling from vital and to spiritual and psychic. If that is happening, then there is a possibility. Otherwise, look at Arjuna, isn't it? First at there, what was it? Vital only, no? What is going to happen? My family members, my people, my teachers, my ancestors, future society, everything. He was having all emotions, and in his vital, he was trying to declare what he says as the truth. No, I have to run away, I have to escape. So Sri Krishna had to work on him, slowly, 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 and finally he got transformed. Then when he got transformed there, he took that final decision. He said, Karishye Vachanam Tava. So it was there, psychic and spiritual level of understanding he got. He had the freedom to do whatever he wanted. He said, no, I will follow the divine. I choose to surrender and I choose to follow the divine will. So let us continue. Nirodbaran. Since ancient times, women have been trained to accept a position of subjection by Manu and others. Is it because men are more sexual? It would be rather hard on us to be accused of this. Again, he's trying to build his case. Sri Aurobindo replies, it is because of man's desire to be the master and keep her in subjection, the Hitler and Mussolini attitude. The sex is an additional stimulus, not more hard than you deserve. So Nirodban cannot find any escape. His statements are not, they are being deflated, all his logics. Nirodban, he says, then again it is said that woman's center of life and consciousness is in the vital, whose nature is to pull the jiva down to earth. Sri Aurobindo replies, woman's living in the material and vital is not the cause. It is man's living in the vital and material. That is the cause of his finding her an obstacle. So many in the Ondland path would say, stay away from women, as if women are only causing trouble in sadhana. But it was not that, it was actually the men who are having no control over themselves. That is the problem. So Shri Aurobindo says, it is man's living in the vital and material that is the cause of his finding her an obstacle. She also finds him an obstacle and could say of him that he is the Naraka Dwaram, the gate of hell. It's the same dialogue, logic can work, no, both sides. Why only this side? Sri Aurobindo is telling. The assumption that man lives less in the vital and material than woman is not true. He makes more use of his intellect for vital and material purposes. That's all. This is just an assumption which is false. Nowadays we get lots of videos, isn't it? This is what it is. Everybody is busy telling this is what this is. But these are all assumptions. How much of it is based or grounded in truth? I know of a scientist who is top 2% scientist. He gave an opinion and he gave an opinion based on some reason. Somebody who is not a scientist has dismissed it as saying that, no, this is, you don't have, you learn about research first. So the biggest scientist in the world, best scientist in the world is being denied for, this is what happens when people are attached to their fixed opinions. And nowadays we are living in a world where opinions are very, very rigid and reinforced because we try to build echo chambers. I find 100 people who like what I'm saying. So I will try to increase 100 to 200, 200 to 300. The moment one person does not like what I'm saying, Akraman to all the 300 people. This person, he is different or he is going against mine. Either I block that person or something of that sort. But that's not the case. Sri Aurobindo very beautifully says that way woman can say man is Naraka Dwara for the woman. Just as how man is being told that women are an obstacle. So it is not true that the one of them is less in the vital or another is more in the vital. But of course, one aspect he does say, which is a slight difference, is that man makes more use of his intellect for vital and material purposes. That's all. So the buddhi is using there for intellect and material for vital purposes. Nirodban, is it not because of this fundamental trait in her being that she has been so sacrificed and tied to man, and also incapacitated from any spiritual endeavor in conjunction with man. Sri Aurobindo replies clearly, curtly. He says, man has taken advantage of it to keep them under his heel. This is what is classic domination. That is what is taking place, or it was taking place to some extent. Now it's slowly evolving as a society, but in still some parts not so. It's still very slow. Nirodban goes on. Can we not then justify Buddha, Ramakrishna, and others who advocated isolation from women? After all, is it not essentially the same principle here? Because if vital relations are debarred, nothing remains except a simple exchange of words. Sri Aurobindo replies, what about the true, not the pretended, psychic and spiritual, forgetting sex? The relation has to be limited as it is because sex immediately trots onto the front. You are invited to live above the vital and deeper than the vital. Then only you can use the vital all right. Buddha was for nirvana. And what is the use of having relations with anybody if you are bound for nirvana? Ramakrishna insisted on isolation during the period when a man is spiritually raw. He did not object to meeting when he became ripe and no longer a slave of sex. So these are all what we can say instructions given and taken out of context. It is for somebody who is not having control over himself that this statement was made. We remain celibate. So that was what was told for him. So this is here it is being taken out of context. Nirodbar, he says, now I have learnt a lot on the subject, but it has not been wholly satisfying. Since the answers are in the nature of marginal comments, I would like to have a coherent, harmonious whole. My notebook can wait on your table till Monday. So he's giving assignment to Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo replies, sorry, but you can't get today either the volume or the harmonious whole. Women will have to wait as she has done through centuries and may have to do again if Hitler and Mussolini have their way. Yeah, that time they were all at large, no? In 1935. They may have to do again if Hitler and Mussolini have their way. The men have crowded her out. Next time, better not discuss her yourself. That will save me from the temptations of marginals. As for Monday, no, sir. It is almost as impracticable as Saturdays. Nirodban. N feels feverish. For the first time, we are seeing discussion about patients, no? Directly. N feels feverish. He says it has been going on for some weeks. It may be an early sign of TB or a mild kidney infection. He had kidney trouble in the past. Sri Aurobindo. It was mother's impression also. The old doctor said the same thing. That's what was the weakness in his body. Nirodbaran, he says, I blurted out in confident bravado that he will be all right in 2 days. I pray that my bravado may work out successfully. If S could come and help him, it would be good. Sri Aurobindo, let it be so. After 2 days, he ought not to be any more lying in bed. It is not safe at his age. Very well, mother is telling Dyuman. Nirodban, why do I feel so sleepy in spite of having enough sleep? Is it tamas? I hardly seem to be doing any sadhana, no prayer, no meditation. Nevertheless, quite well. Sri Aurobindo, he replies, if you feel quite well, it is all right. Perhaps you are assimilating. This is also an interesting aspect. The inner aspect, inner trupti, that is something. Many times people get into rush of sadhana has to be done, sadhana has to be done like this, I have to do like that. Yes, discipline is required, but this is a discipline which is imposed on by somebody else Or is it self-discipline? That's the question. In Learning Through Nature program, there's the same thing that we talk about. Self-discipline will develop naturally. You have the drive, to do sadhana. Now, one very famous, one good established doctor friend of mine, he is in the Gulf. There he is trying to do sadhana. There he wants to do sadhana, that too a Vama Marga, what we call Dasha Mahavidya sadhana he wants to do. First, he started off doing on his own without Guru's sanction. Then he started experiencing or he started visualizing bad experiences. Then he asked for Guru's sanction. Then Guru has given him. Then he stopped doing that sadhana for some reason of his own. And again, another set of experiences. So, what is happening is whether or not his sadhana is going on ahead, it doesn't look like it's going ahead. But along with that, one more aspect is happening that Drupti is missing. There, he's also afraid of revealing certain things, revealing, fully surrendering to the Guru or telling certain things. So, what is happening here? It's the mind, no, which is getting in trouble. So, here, Sri says it's all right. If that Trupti is there and you have done sadhana and right now you are not able to because of what? Is Nirodhan just going and partying and enjoying? No. He's doing his karma yoga only, isn't it? Yes, that is also a sadhana ongoing. Maybe one aspect. Because what happens is otherwise you become. He was very worried that something bad is happening and he's continuously facing certain effects. Whether or not they are exactly tantric is a different aspect, but psychological, yes. We must learn to now take a quiet step backwards. One person had shared the experience of what did this person do in a fit of anger? He broke the murti of Bhagavan with his hand. Now, what has happened? That's absolute rajas, isn't it? In Gita, we have learned. And whose murti? He has broken Krishna's murti only in anger. With his hand, he just tried to chop off. And now he is only troubled by that action, and he is now feeling all bad things are going to happen in my life. My promotion is going and all. So he said, "What should I do? What should be done?" First thing is he was asked, "Are you feeling guilty of that action? Do you feel that action is the right action?" He said, "No, that was a wrong action. It should not have been done. It was in Rajas." And then second, "Have you destroyed the Vishwarupa with your strength, your personal physical strength?" So he said, "No." So the murti you have broken. This is wrong. You can go ask Shama from your heart. You can do whatever, some part of what we can say penance for seeking forgiveness, whatever is going to. But understand you are not doing anything to the Supreme Divine right now. Get back to your sadhana instead of troubling your mind and not doing any sadhana. So instead of becoming gloomy, he is now maybe not doing meditation, maybe not doing enough japa, not doing other aspects which are being told. But it's all right. I have seen no guru giving a sadhana to a person. This person's sadhana was for him, the guru had given the sadhana of cooking something. Now, what is that? Now, that is integral yoga, isn't it? You should learn different aspects. Now, you say, I'm busy and I'm not having time. That is what the Shishya has told. Now, maybe the Guru has understood and will not pass on, will not be able to pass on something, isn't it? By one particular action, if the Guru wanted to bring about a transformation in inner nature, that is not happening. So, here, this aspect of Dr. Nirodabaran, it's all right, is what Sri Aurobindo says. If you feel quite well, it's all right. Perhaps you are assimilating because that is also a phase. We'll stop here. We'll stop here at this part. Assimilating. Assimilating is what? Many times in life, we keep getting experiences, but when do those experiences get assimilated into your body? Assimilated into your consciousness, not just physical, your mental, your being only. That is also important. So sometimes it looks like nothing is going on the outside, but you're sincere and you're walking on the path ahead. Understand this also takes place. Some moments come when you get good realization. Sometimes your dhyana happens very nicely. Sometimes it doesn't. Instead of becoming disappointed, understand ki chalo, it's a part. It's a part of growth and inner progress. Soon it will become One, because assimilation is also important. It's like a cycle in sadhana. Experience comes, and the experience is assimilated. These are all factors which ultimately lead to that realization. So, with this, we stop. If anybody has any queries, anything you wish to ask or share, you are welcome. If not, we can look at the summary and then conclude. Yes, anybody? Hari Om? Any questions? Anything you want to ask related to sadhana or anything? Where one of the reasons why we are studying this book is we're not just reading, we are trying to relate it to our everyday lives. So that should be our aspect also. Practical interpretation. Yes, if nobody has any queries, I think Chitraji, you're summarizing, or is it a query?
No, no, I just wanted to share this. I mean, when I was doing flowers related thing, I just came across
Huh?
this
You were
saying by
doing?
the flowers related writings
Floral,
that I
yeah,
did.
selection. Okay.
There was one thing that I remember that the mother had told that, I mean, when you were explaining about the psychic thing, right? So in a very high level, I think this is also relatable. So the mother has told that one has to establish an individuality, transform that individuality, and allow the divine to use it as its instrument and
Hmm.
manifest. So something like that I could relate
Ah,
to whatever you were telling, but it's on a very high level. But when we try to break
no,
down the steps, I
that's
felt
actually very nicely said, isn't it? Now, Arjuna had to first re-establish his Kshatriya individuality, isn't it? First, Uttishta Bharata, Yuddhaya, Krita Nishchaya. Again and again, Krishna is trying to, because that individuality was lost. And then after the individuality is lost, I mean, is established, oh Parantapa, Krishna gives him the advice, Nimitta Matra Bhava Savya Sachin, become the instrument of the divine. Yes, so that is, I think, a nicely identified, Chitraji. Yes. So that individuality must be formed, then that individuality must be offered to the mother or the divine. Let the divine Devi use that force. Sri Aurobindo in his hymn to Durga had talked about it. Mother, birth after birth, we come and go. We perform your bidding and then return home. Home he is talking about is that supreme loka only. And he says, birth after birth, we are coming to do your service. Not just now. Yes, please. Yes. So, anybody would like to summarize? Yes, Chitraji?
yes,
Okay, we have got a permanent, I think, role for Chitraji. Summary as well as the recap in the start. Thank you about that. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
yeah. So when Dr. Nirodabaran expressed that he's doing less of sadhana yet feeling sort of cheerful, and he asked, "Is it acceptable?" So Sri Aurobindo says that it is. I mean, he gives an analogy with the salt, where it's okay and it is much preferred over being staying low and gloomy, feeling low and
Salt is
gloomy.
the cheerfulness of sadhana, isn't it? Yeah.
That is one thing we saw, and there was some series of exchange on conversations over the maintenance of the workplace, all those things that they were discussing on. And we also saw that about the lower vital emotions with regards to an example of another person after taking another person's suggestion and performing an act. So one must know that what suggestions must be taken and what to be rejected.
Hmm.
So the lower vital
Hostile forces,
emotions,
no? In terms of
hostile
hostile
forces,
forces have to be rejected.
and these lower vital emotions or some kind of other negative forces are allowed, they cause a lot of disruptions. So one should not be receptive to those or attract those kind of forces. And then we saw the important points that Sri Aurobindo explained on the transformation, basically. So one
With
should
sadhana,
discover,
isn't it? The five
yes,
steps, is it?
That's
Yeah, we'll probably look at them once. All five, you will be able to say them?
I have written, but
Okay, yes, please. Please do, Ji.
yeah. So first is to discover the psychic, or what we can call as the conscious self. Then live in the psychic being, basically an evolved self from experiences and all those. And then allow this psychic being to rule or dominate. And then the fourth is to rise above the mind. And fifth is to allow the descent of grace to dissolve all this lower emotions and nature and
To allow that to descend
manifest.
into the lower nature, no? To transform the lower nature.
And this, yeah, those were the five things that we saw.
Yeah.
Um, and then the vital difficulties in sadhana are both applicable for men and women, irrespective of whatever vitals they are in. And whatever each is good at cannot be necessarily proved as an advantage or disadvantage for the opposite sex that lacks that. So this is something that we saw a lot of conversations around this. And finally, we saw the assimilation of experiences is also important. Something that we saw.
Yeah. All right. So the last part was the assimilation. Yes, see. So I think we'll also be, but we should not use it as an excuse to not do sadhana. Yeah. All right. Let us conclude with the Shanti mantra. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Hari Om Tatsat. Krishnam Vande Jagat. Punarmila. Hari Om. Yes. Namaste.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Ji.
Thank you.
Thank you. No queries, we conclude. All right.